Welcome to this session this afternoon, which is going to be a masterclass for 2.5 hours, so I hope you're ready and prepared for it. My name is Willeke van Rijn, CEO of the Resource Alliance. We are a global community of over 30,000 fundraisers, campaigners, change makers, sharing with each other how you can raise funds. And if anyone in this room can tell me, sorry, we have enough of that, let me know, because we would love to know how you do that and share it across the global community. We are co-hosting this masterclass this afternoon with Tjolande van Brarande. Over to you, Tjolande.
Thank you. I'm here to learn and to hear and to be inspired about this topic that keeps coming up for us. Very excited to be working with you. But I was trying to say the whole name.
Yeah, impossible.
Anyway. My name is Tjolande Kuloba, usually based out of Nairobi, Kenya, but very excited to have this conversation with you. The idea is for us, we're just going to share our own experience, and then hopefully we can also get to hear what your experience is like, so we can trade secrets, right, to see how we survive. Someone over lunch was saying, I'm just surviving. We used to say, don't survive, you should thrive. But at this point in time, I think we just want to survive fast, and then we can thrive. So super happy to be here. I'm excited for the conversation.
Yeah. What we want to do today is share a little bit what is happening on a global perspective and on an African perspective. Mm-hmm. I can't even say the word anymore, surely. And Tjolande and I will do that. We will look at what are drivers for success if we're talking about fundraising and diversifying fundraising. So we will do some active kind of assessments while being in the room. But we also have a lot of tools available that you can follow up afterwards to do a more broader assessment. And foremost, we will listen to 4 examples of people and organizations that have diversified their income, and they are not only sharing how they did that, but also to really address in a very open and honest manner around what were the requirements internally. Mm-hmm. Because one thing we all know, it's very nice to talk about, let's localize, let's diversify in fundraising away from fundraising into alternative financing models, but how are you truly doing that? So the examples that we are hearing about today here are a few of them, but also with the people behind the diversified income sources, so you can reach out to them afterwards as well. We are very happy that we're on day 1, so any questions you have to the respected speakers, know where to find them. Sorry for the speakers in the room, but the whole idea is that we learn and share and exchange with each other. Of course, there is time for you to exchange as well. You might have beautiful examples, and that's really important for all of us. Maybe before we start, who's a fundraiser in this room? Can you please raise your hand? There we go. Are there any CEOs in the room who did not raise their hand that they are a fundraiser? Now you don't dare anymore, maybe. Yes. Country directors should be a fundraiser too. Fundraising without leadership and leadership without fundraising is, one thing is very clear, success or failure. So if we are talking about fundraising and you want to be successful, please incorporate it in your whole organization, and not that person in the room there is now raising the funds for all that we want to achieve. And unfortunately, that's still the case.
Before we proceed, I just a quick logistics. Is there anybody who needs translation? You need translation? All right, so we're just going to see if we can get that for you. Okay, can I?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, well, we are arranging that for you. Any other requirements? Please don't say we want a cup of coffee, because I do not know how to organize that for you yet. Yeah. It looks really nice in the back half an hour ago when there was all coffee there, but not yet here. Are we okay to get started? Yeah? Okay. Is it okay, Tjolande, if I start with a global perspective? Or do you want to share?
Go ahead.
No, share your other things.
I could start with my.
Please,
Let me be selfish for once.
Yes. Go ahead.
All right. So when we were discussing this topic and trying to think about how, what we can do to ground you, I had something really nicely prepared to share, but after today's conversations, I said, let me go back to what I'm naturally good at, which is storytelling. To illustrate my point. Now, why I'm super excited to be doing this, especially with Willeke from Resource Alliance, because Please don't do the mathematics. But in the early 2000s, okay, I started doing my fundraising. And at that time, is there anybody who works for AMREF? Is there AMREF in the room? Is there AMREF, what do they call them? Not diaspora, alumni. Is there AMREF alumni? All right, so for those of you who don't know AMREF, AMREF Health now is what it's called. That's when I started my first formal job. I used to volunteer before that. And when I was doing that job, I was a youth volunteer, and I was running a volunteer program that was housed in the communications and fundraising department at AMREF. And that was before, for those who've been to Nairobi, there's a big AMREF headquarters down the road. It's a red brick building. Have you seen it? Some of you have seen it. We built it, and I should be saying this a lot more, right? And that was the early 2000s. We were young people. I had a database of about 500 young people, and our job at the time, when they set up this program, the idea was that they just want to create a space where young people can get off the streets and go in there and figure ourselves out. Then over time, they said, well, this is a resource that we can use to be doing things. All sorts of things. They were starting to do programming, and so, you know, when they start a new program, we would be the ones to go and dig, you know, wells and things of that nature. But over time, they figured out that they needed to start raising money. And they said, well, we have these 500 young people, how do we utilize them? So I was the coordinator at the time. I had no idea what I was doing. But the thing was, let's just hit the streets. So we were some of the first people who hit the streets back then to do what was then called the Buy a Brick campaign. So our job was to go out there and pick a brick and just sell it to whoever. I'm talking about back in the 2000s, right, in Nairobi. And then after that, the idea of ATMs started being put all over the place. And they thought, oh, it would actually be a fantastic idea for us to put a small notice on an ATM that says, you know, out of all the money that you get, give 10 bob into this envelope. So that's what we used to do. So in some ATMs, there's a little suggestion box, and when somebody removes money, they would take out 10 Kenya shillings and drop in the box, and that money would go to AMREF. But around that time, as we're doing all these different things, Resource Alliance came into the group. So Willeke had no idea. We met sometime back, and I said, oh my God, do you know how much I love you guys? And do you know how much you influenced how I actually move around the world to look for resources to resource our work? So I started off very much in the creativity, in trying to find out how can I use whatever resource I have. At that time it was young people. We went into communities, we started mobilizing communities to finance what we used to call the village development committees, right? So you would sit down and do community mobilization, then work with the community and say, well, what do you guys have? And out of what you have, we put it into the pot, would go to AMREF, one of the international offices, they would match that. We didn't know that at the time we were diversifying funding. We didn't know that at the time we were doing local resource mobilization. And then Resource Alliance came into Nairobi and started hosting all these big conferences. And then that's when, you know, we were volunteers, so we would go there and rapporteur, and we would learn, and we would meet people who are doing fundraising. We would learn concepts, get tools. So for me, Resource Alliance is very dear to me, because I think a lot of my thoughts started, you know, around how we mobilize resources started back then. Fast forward to many years on, and now I'm running Warande Advisory, and our job is to go on that journey of growth and institutional strengthening with nonprofits, but then use that experience to influence how funding flows, how much money comes, what is that relationship when the money comes. So that's generally, I don't want to go into too much detail on who we are, but just to give you some context. And now over the years, in 2015, I think, I then worked for the New Partners Initiative that was bringing in money from the US government, but they were looking for who they were calling new partners, the New Partners Initiative. And that time, we were very excited to help build organizations that can be funded by USAID for the first time. A lot of them were faith-based organizations. And so we were given a criteria, and we did those OCAs. How many have done an OCA? Organizational capacity assessment, yes, and then we would tell you this is how we prioritize, how we will grow, and then it will be resourced, you have this much money, and then we go on a journey of growth. And we did that for a long time. That time I was working with about 300 organizations. After that, we went out beyond Kenya. But the idea was we were growing organizations that were financially resilient and sustainable. And the idea was that after that, you'll be funded. But then when we went into post-election violence, and the money left, right? My colleagues from US government left. So this is not new. Where we are in today is not new for us who work in Africa. The money went, and I was left with all these different EDs who were asking me, but you are making me financially sustainable and financially resilient. What's happening? Where's the money? And so I started having a conversation with myself about what were we truly doing to help these organizations become financially sustainable. What we really were doing was telling people, make sure what the funder wants. Make sure that you deliver essentially their programs, right? Because they tell you what the program needs to look like, what success needs to look like, how it should be. We were also then told, deliver these programs, but deliver them within my timelines. And that's what we were doing. And that got me really frustrated about how we set ourselves up to be financially resilient, because we did that for the US government. Now, when you take this organization and take them to the Germans, they're like, what are you talking about results framework? I want what? Is that thing? Log frame, is it? Yeah. And then you remove them and take them to the Belgians and they tell you something different. And so I started thinking, okay, we are not doing ourselves a service, right? With how we set ourselves up as organizations to attract different types of funding. And those are some of the questions I think we're going to start asking ourselves as we go into conversation. So over the years, what have I seen? I have seen what I said early then, and I told you that early story on purpose. Because back then in the early 2000s, we were already looking for money from people, from ourselves, from just general publics. I hear rhetoric about people saying individuals don't give institutions. My experience tells me different, right? If you're from Kenya, we have seen a lot of initiatives mobilizing money, and it comes through. We have funded ourselves to do the youth movement last year, right? We have seen the Sisi kwa Sisi movement, which is run by a celebrity called Eric Omondi. I see Good Kenyan is here. Good Kenyan here, talk to her. She's founded really on individuals, people in their own networks coming together, raising money, doing all sorts of very creative things from individuals. We have also seen people like Cup of Uji, which is really a movement. One person who said, I want to feed schools, kids in schools, but I don't want institutional funding. I don't want to set up my organization and grow in a certain way. And for a long time, Francis insisted on just getting money from the publics, and it has now grown into a big movement. I give these examples from back then and now to say it is possible to look locally, even as international funding shifts. I don't think it's shrinking. From my space, it's not shrinking. It's just shifting. Africa is no longer sexy to fund. The money is there. If you go talk to people in Yemen and all the Ukraine, they'll tell you there's a lot of money, isn't it? So is the money shrinking? I don't think so. I think it's just shifting, yeah? So what do we do in that space? How do we get ourselves comfortable enough to be able to actually now look at different types, different models, different ways? How do we look at what has been working and situate ourselves to that? If Sisi kwa Sisi movement can happen and happen so successfully, how are we as institutions targeting those same people, right? Those are some of the questions I always ask myself. Is it that we can't do it or we are afraid to do it? Is it a capacity issue? I don't know. Again, from my vantage point, what I have seen stopping us from reaching out for some of these different ways of funding is some of our boards. Some of our boards are not very encouraging. Some of our boards don't see their role in fundraising. Some of our boards actually are taking money from us instead of actually putting money in. Some are risk averse. They're like, why are you trying this? You're going to put in too much money for that event. It's not going to come back. Right? Am I lying? I have also seen us be held back by our own. I am now doing a lot of grant making for some coalitions we build, and sometimes I'm tired as a leader. I'm fatigued. You don't have the time to be responding to funders' requests. You don't have the time to even sit down and conceptualize something. Our wellness, our welfare is an issue as leaders that need to be at the front line to do some of this work. I have also seen us not do a good job of building a culture of giving within our organizations. Everyone, in my view, has a role to play to fundraise within an organization, but we don't do that very intentionally. So sometimes our cultures don't encourage that. What have I also seen? I've also seen that perhaps how we relate externally might not bring us the kind of diversity of funding that we need. I don't know how many of us sit down and have strategies that think about how do I relate externally? How am I known out there? What's my narrative? What's my story? What's my credibility? History, right? What is the social capital? I remember when I was starting up Warande Advisory, I asked a mentor of mine, and I was like, I'm scared, I don't have money. She said, oh my God, you may not have money, but have you thought about your social capital? How do you convert that into bringing money into the organization? So maybe this is why I should have put down some notes, because now I'm just telling stories and going on, and this was not the time. So I think I want to pause there, and just with a few thoughts for you. The rest of the day, the rest of the couple of hours we're together, I think we can build on those. Let's hear your stories. We'll share our stories as well. But really, I think let's come into this space with a lot of authenticity and openness, to share the good, the big stuff, right? The strategies and whatnot, but also the small tips that we have seen work for us. So with that, those many remarks, Wileke, I'd love to hear, that's what my experience has been, based out of Kenya, Nairobi, which I'm hoping you can relate with. But I'd love to hear your perspective of how does that relate, how does it connect with what you're seeing at a global level? Is that okay?
Thanks very much, Chilande. And the applause is in. I'm going to share a little bit of picture around what is happening across the globe and some shifts that we see happening in fundraising. And maybe some of that you know already, but just to also highlight a little bit what does it require on internal readiness and what do we see happening there across the globe. I think one thing is very clear, the world has changed, we won't argue with that probably, but so is resource mobilization. And resource mobilization is often more than fundraising alone, and it's really building on what Chilande is saying. Look at what kind of assets you have. And sometimes, if you work towards your purpose, raising a voice might be more important than actually providing money, or somebody giving their intellect or sharing their time with you might also be a very crucial aspect around it. And what we definitely feel and hear and see across the world, in a world that is challenging, to say at least, there are much stronger words that I would like to use, but maybe not out loud here. People power is really crucial. And what do we do with people power? Do we build those constituencies, those support groups? Do we support people power that is out there with all the protests that are out there? Do we provide security? Do we provide financial support sometimes as well? Do we amplify each other's messages? Because the media is often one-sided as well and doesn't really share the stories of the local heroes we all know in this room. And that is the beautiful part. We know that people care for each other and that people care for nature. And how beautiful that we can create a big voice around that. Right, we are going to talk about income diversity, and the starting point is actually income diversity is diversifying in income fundraising, but also away from fundraising to sustainable income sources and sustainable financing models. I think when we look, what has happened a lot is really what kind of international foundations are out there. Can we do a request for proposal? Can we send them out, and do we get then money in, and are we building partnerships with them, etc.? If you're looking at diversifying fundraising, there is so much out there, and there are so many different opportunities out there. Chilande mentioned already around individual giving. Is that something that fits with your organization? There are private sector, high net worth individuals, government with whom you can work with. The End Fund, you might know, is working very closely at the moment with the government saying, hey, can we work together to end the 6 diseases that actually are not well represented, but having a lot of impact on children and people's lives. So how do we work together with the different partners, and what is our portfolio within our organization that really creates that best part out there? First, maybe to dive a little bit in that ODA part. We all know that ODA has declined. What we often forget is that before the USAID cancellation, actually Europe started already declining their ODA. It is not something that is followed by Trump. Europe is really shifting to I can sometimes even say far-right perspective. My home country is the Netherlands, which was once seen as one of the most liberal places in the world to live in, that is really shifting as well. And it really meant that by that shift, there is a decline in an interest in international aid. What we see happening now that the US is no longer the largest funder in the world, but actually taken over by Germany on their ODA part. That is not going to say hooray to Germany, because they are discussing how they further can decline it. And just to show that these are the latest figures out there that showcase a little bit about those ODA perspectives. So with all that, the focus has been a lot around localization, do local fundraising. And the question is, of course, how does that really work? I really would like to address to you, there is no one size fits all. What is the portfolio of fundraising opportunities that fits your organization? What is the work that you are doing? What is the purpose that you are achieving? If you're a campaigning organization and you work with people to really support the campaigning work in your work, there might be a very natural link to ask them for a donation too. And that means an individual giving base might be a very strong connect. If you're a campaigning organization really to put some private sector companies under pressure, the question is private sector the right link for you in your organization? Is it influencing, you know, your independency of private sector or organization if you're challenging them? So it is really looking at what fits with your organization and what not. And of course, that also depends on how do you get your restricted versus unrestricted granting. What is local versus international? What can we start now? What do we have to initiate now that might generate income over many years instead of immediately now on the short term? And all these questions, you really have to answer yourself within an organization to see, hey, what is the right mix there? On the other hand, we really see the shift towards alternative financing models. So what has become a little bit a hype at the moment is everything around these alternative financing models. And what we see happening is that they're diversifying away from fundraising to sustainable income models. Again, it needs to fit your organization. If you're talking about impact investment models where there is a loan as an investment that over a year you have to pay back, you need to have a program model in place that is allowing that. If you're an organization that is innovating new solutions, you should be allowed to fail. You cannot pay back a failure. You should be allowed to fail and have free funding to do so. And with that, you have to be very clear, you know, what your conversations are with potential donors if they're moving you in a certain direction of those alternative financing models. Is it really helping and supporting your purpose or not? Does it fit with your organization or not? If you're a watchdog organization for the government, for example, you're challenging the government, how are you ever going to pay back a loan or a revolving fund around that? So please be aware, everyone is talking about those new models at the moment. Understand if it is something for you, and if it is for you, it might really provide interesting solutions to cut the dependency on donations. If it is not something for you, know how to have that conversation with funders, with foundations, and with trust. I'm going to show with you some things that we see happening around this alternative financing model. So for example, in the right-hand side, you see the traditional philanthropy, which is based on grants. On the complete left-hand side, there is the financial return on investments, people that say, I've got some money, I would like to invest it, but I really want to get as much wealth out of it as possible. And what we see happening from both sides, that is moving to different options. We see people saying, well, okay, I can invest it in an oil company, but maybe that is not really providing the right solutions for my children in the future. So I want to have a more social justice principle behind it. And they start shifting a little bit to the other elements there as well. And a question for us, you know, on the dependency on grants, do we see models happening there where actually we can cut that dependency and come up with models that are actually sustainable and therefore do not need that grant cycle anymore? So it is happening on both sides. This is a very busy slide. We are going to share the slides with you, and I'm not going to talk through this. But this is one of the things that is outlining, for example, why would alternative models not be for you? Please keep in mind, a lot of the funding is still very global north driven. And the question is the starting point the community, or is the starting point the money cycle? That happens with grants as well, but we see that hype definitely happening here as well. I think we all know around mission drift, do we have to adjust our purpose towards it being capable of supporting a financing model, yes or no, or not? And there are quite some things out there that is interesting, I think, to be aware of. Is financing models also saying actually even more the dependency and the power is now in hands of the money instead of hands of the community? And this might be tools and mechanisms out there to really have that conversation with your foundations and with your funders. What was very clearly said this morning by Brian, those brackets of NGO, social enterprise, for-profit, they've become blurring at the moment. And it often depends on the country what the legal requirements are. Each country has different legal requirements about what is allowed and what is not allowed in what you can do with receiving for-profit income or not. But the interesting part, there is not a one-size solution here anymore that only an NGO is doing social impact. We see that happening in many more different situations as well. And if we even broaden that beyond institutions, we know that individuals, mainly individuals at the moment, are initiating movements. Name me a single organization that have really created and established a very big movement. While we are all discussing in the room, how can we create a book movement, the movements are out there. And the question is, what do we do there? Are we supporting them there as well? So while you see here kind of the new legal entity options, there are also the non-legal entity options to really see what might be possible. Before diving into this slide, which maybe many of you might know, a question for us as organizations together and as a collective is, what do we want to do as a sector as a whole? What do we then want to do as us as an organization? What do you want to do independently? Me as a person. And in the breakout, we will touch upon some of these things as well. If we are looking at some policies that are introduced right now across the globe, the Asia is economically strong and growing very fast. We have 100 million of people in the middle class. A lot of them are initiating family trusts that are often driven by younger people who are very much into the alternative financing models because they see that as a way to move faster beyond the donations. We see countries introducing policies to support that philanthropy. So to give you an example, Singapore has introduced a policy where if you start a family trust, you get a tax deduction, and the tax deduction is 150% of everything you utilize from that family trust. If it is internationally supported, it is 250% if you allocate it in Singapore itself. These are policies that are supporting us as a sector. In Malaysia, they have created the Bank Islam, and the Bank Islam, their objective is to make capital and investment available for people that usually do not get access to commercial banks because the risk is too high, is often the case. And sometimes it might not benefit them because the interest rates are therefore too high. The government of Malaysia is supporting the process of making that happen. They created a fund based on zakat and waqf and the other Islamic philanthropy options that makes it possible to provide loans at a higher risk. Sometimes at 0%, sometimes at low percentages for 2%. In the worst case, it doesn't get paid back, but it has been incorporated in that risk management. They want to really provide access to funding and to new financing sources. If we are looking at India, India has created a corporate social responsibility policy. And when we are talking about, the reduction of international funding, India is a very interesting example because they have gone through it for the past 10 years. And NGOs have been toppling over the past 10 years, and they had to localize because the money internationally was simply not possible anymore. A corporate social responsibility policy in India generates at the moment $3.5 billion annually. It's one policy. So the question to us is, if we're really looking at what can we do as a sector, can we start initiating those things? One final one maybe as a sector. If impact investment is the next new hype, can we create an impact investment fund in fundraising? If we know that if we have a great fundraiser that will generate certain income over time, we know that that first investment of making that happen, we can pull out after 5 years to invest in another organization. Yes, isn't it as simple as possible, and shouldn't we be doing that? If you want impact investment, dear funder, let's make it happen. If you have individual donors and you know that there's actually a whole audience out there, but we are missing that upfront investment to really go to scale and to reach, can we do that with a type of a revolving fund? Give us a loan. After 5 years, we have either multiplied that loan into multiply by 3, by 4 return on investment. We can either pay it back, or we say, actually, we have a bigger amount now to invest into program money. So there are options there to think for us as a sector. Of course, there's also for asking the question about what does this mean at the organization, and we addressed already, one size fits all. Definitely not happening, and that really requires a good internal analysis of what is possible. I wanted to show something about these bubbles here, also to put it in perspective. This is international aid. Aid that is moving from one country to the other country. The blue bubble is ODA, and that is where we're all very upset about. It's the USAID funding that got declined. This is 2020. It started rising in 2023 and 2024, mainly because of Ukraine. A lot of additional funding became available for Ukraine. And then we see a collapse happening, of course, last year in 2025 with USAID, but also with those European governments. What we often hear is, can foundations do more? And I think we always say, yes, if you look at their endowments, of course they can do more. But the mint, greenish purple part is the philanthropy side. International aid in philanthropy is doing $70 billion at the moment. If we really want to compensate the 60 to 100 billion that we have lost, that is a very big challenge to achieve. If you see that middle tiny dot, the orange one, that's private sector. International aid from the private sector. So as soon as we start saying, don't worry, they will cover up, we have a lot of work to do there. It is not saying, as Chilande very clearly outlined, that there is no money, but it hasn't been flowing, as we can see here. That big red bubble is remittances. This is people, individuals. And it has been mentioned this morning many, many times. Do not underestimate individuals. And individuals is more than giving. Individuals is a constituency building. Individuals is providing security for the organization that you stand for. Individuals is providing a force to influence policies, to influence elections. And that's what we see happening around the world as well. Think about Kenya. Think also about Nepal. Gen Z went out to protest. New elections were initiated. They demanded the end of corrupt governors, and they got a new government. Of course, we don't know yet if this is providing the solution, but this was initiated by people going out on the street. Last thing, if we look at very generic internal factors for success about income diversity, it starts and ends with leadership and board. And Chilande, you mentioned it loud and clear. Any research we have done on global level, and it doesn't matter which country you come from, if you do not have a leadership that really understands fundraising, that incorporate fundraising and resource mobilization as part of their overarching strategy, instead of saying, we have a strategy right now, hello, can we now raise this amount of money for it? Leadership that is actually supporting the fundraiser to go out on meetings, that is initiating meetings, but also that is demanding that the right board people are on their board. It is not going to happen. Where are the board members? And that's not a question to only you. This is literally to every NGO across the globe that are opening doors for you. We see often boards that are heavily fulfilled with program expertise, while 9 out of 10 times, the organization really has that expertise in-house already. They know how to do the programs. They know what the next steps are. Where are the people making it easy for you to do fundraising? And it cannot be one person in the room saying, sort it out now. A second thing that I really wanted to ask you, we asked fundraisers across the globe if you have to give yourself a job title, because let's be very clear, who has been born and grown up here and said, you know what, one day I will become a fundraiser? You know, it's not happening. It's not the sexy profile that we all want to be one day, but we all rolled into it. So we asked the question, if you have to describe the work that you are doing, what kind of a job title would you give yourself? And the answer was a diplomat. The fundraisers in the room know exactly what we are talking about. We can bring different people together. A donor with a lot of money, a community really knowing what is needed. And as a fundraiser, that role is super important. Are we reporting to a donor? Are we reporting to the community? And that is a very clear question that all of us have to answer. So if we're talking about impact and purpose, I think that's the starting and the end point. And as a fundraiser, you're in a beautiful position of making that happen. Let me stop here and we go into interaction with you. Thanks. Oh yeah, I have to say this. We organize International Fundraising Congress.
I recommend highly.
It is an international fundraising congress that brings around 700 people from over 80 countries together. It also has an online element where around 3,500 from 125 countries come together. They're sharing best practices. You will hear some examples from it here today, but of course there are many examples out there. We work with different tier systems, and for everyone here at the conference, the lowest tier level, which is the most economic value available, is available for you. Ask me any questions afterwards. Oh yeah, second thing, get your mobile phones out, please. There are a tremendous amount of free tools available from here, the African continent. How do you diversify your income sources? How do you start with building a resource mobilization strategy? How do you get your board members involved? So many webinars from amazing experts and beautiful best practices here on the continent. I hear often we do not document enough. I really want to say that's such a nonsense, because there are so many examples out there, and it's really incredible to see how you can build here on it. We love to hear more stories from what you do and share them to the globe. I think our most important role as Resource Alliance at the moment is to raise the African voice towards the globe. And I want to say one final thing there. You absolutely are innovators, and you become role models now for the US, the UK, and Europe. And why is that? Because suddenly they are in a state of shock. Their governments is shifting to the right. Their governments, who always gave donations and funding available, say, this is it. And suddenly they're like, what do you mean, this is it? You know, we had a long-term partnership. No, the long-term partnership is over. They are looking at new solutions. So there might be a lot to learn from how you deal with shocks, agility, and keep on fighting for the next things. While you have your mobile phones out, we are going to do some polls. We are actually going to do a live readiness assessment and see where you are with your organization. Is that okay? Are we up for that? We are going into interaction mode. Am I keep going, or?
Keep going.
Okay. Can you all please see if it opens a slide for you? Is it opening anything? Does everyone have it? Do I have to duck down for the people there? Sorry, what does it say?
It says it's due to start at 3 o'clock.
Do you see the first question popping up? Yeah? Okay, we are going through 6 questions, so keep focused and we will get hopefully your responses in. If your largest funder withdrew tomorrow, how prepared would your organization be to respond? Shall I go out of the way? Can you access it? You can come here as well and do it here. Oh, I need to be out. I need to be out. Is it working, everyone? Yeah? Ah, okay. 39% says it will be a major crisis. Let me just get this on the big screen. 15%, a little bit less, 29% so-so. 10% say we would be able to adapt rapidly. Can I see a raise of hands who said the 10%? Because you might be very interesting role models in this room, how to diversify. Ah, nice. People know whom to reach out to if you want to get some insights at this conference. That's what we're there for. Okay, are we ready for the next question? Sorry. How committed and supportive is your leadership team and board in finding new forms of fundraising, partnerships, and broader resource mobilization? I hear somebody laughing, but let's see what you're going to present there. Did everyone do it? Then I move to... Ready? Two and three in the middle. Oh, that's quite spread, actually. Interesting. Can I see a raise of hands who said very committed? Who has a very committed board? Oh, nice. Oh, I see a correlation between you and a very committed board and actually income diversity. Nice. People have a look around and know whom you have to tackle afterwards to see how they have done that. Okay, next one. How internally ready is your organization for income diversification? Are you confident you could successfully launch a new income stream within the next 12 months? It's a bit related to this first question. Ready to go? Ah, this is super. Very confident. That's really nice to hear. A majority around the very confident and confident levels. Great. This, by the way, would be completely different if I would do this poll in the UK. It would be the other way around. Here we have a question where you can actually share 2 answers and then you have to press send. Which area feels like your biggest barrier to income diversification right now? Is it your leadership? Is it board? Organizational capacity? Is it the culture? You know, fundraising or resource mobilization is not really there. Is it systems and tools? Is it not knowing which new income stream might be the best for you? I give you a bit more time here because you can fill in 2 and you have to press send for it to become visible here. Ready? Shall we have a look? Wow, identifying new revenue streams is the biggest one. Let me just check. Measuring and communicating impact, yeah. Systems and tools, yes. Organizational capacity. It's probably maybe an interlink with the systems and tools as well. Identifying new revenue streams is really interesting to read. I wouldn't have expected actually this is the #1 outcome, but that actually leads very nicely to hearing about some income revenue streams from the speakers in a second. Let me just have a quick look. I think there might be a final. No, that is it, final one, this was the final one. Thanks very much. We will share a link at the end with an in-depth assessment tool that you can do within your organization and to also see where you stand. If that has as an outcome that there are a couple of areas where you think, hey, you know, we have to improve around it, there are linked an overview and a document with it with suggested webinars and sessions that have been recorded and tools that are available on the Global Community Platform so that you can utilize that immediately within your organization. I will stop here and get back to you, Chilana.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Very interesting poll. Certainly resonates with a lot of us and what we've seen real time happen in the past 1 or 2 years. The fact that a number of us would struggle. I was sharing with one of our strategic partners around what they have seen in the globe, in Europe mostly, who do capacity strengthening since the fundings were shifted. And he said the biggest thing they've seen is, yes, folding, but mergers, acquisitions amongst the non-profit world because of this. I think there's 2 big organizations that have just announced coming together of some sort. Does anybody know? Yeah, Moses. 3, who? Yeah. Care. Yes. They are coming together to share some shared services, but that's a story for T-Brick. Because I know there's lessons to be learned. So that's interesting. I think the other one that I just wanted to comment on was the fact that we're struggling with identifying new revenue streams. And I think along that there's also capacity and systems and tools. And I noticed that, especially in the recent, as the doors have been opening for us to go out there looking for money, a number of us who are looking for this funding, we are going out there to try and reach new funders, but we're not investing in training ourselves, in making sure we have the right skills. What does networking look like? Is my language the same? I'm dealing a lot more recently with Latin American and Asian colleagues, and I realized that a word, there's a word that I use here does not always necessarily mean the same. I see somebody laughing, I know you feel me, right? We don't always use the words the same way. Sometimes we lose funding because of something as simple as that. So the more we meet with different people, I think the better, but also the more we invest, like for example, in some of these conferences that are there to train us. Don't always go looking for funders. Sometimes just go and train yourselves as well. Or hire people, right? So we don't always, because I've seen people struggle because you want to be the one that has all the skills. Hire people that are better than you at something that you're struggling with or something that is not fun for you. That also works. Now, with that said, we thought it would be amazing if we actually hear from folks that have tried to maneuver around some of these difficult areas that we're talking about. One of the things that we are finding out after several years of trying to mobilize funding for us is we have to think about the environment within which we operate, right? So aside from what's going on globally, also in our own countries, things happen. Governments shift. Today you're deregistered. Tomorrow you are fought with some government officer because your message is no longer favorable to them. Sometimes corporates are doing certain things and others, change even the way they do. Maybe CSR is there, then CSR stops because nobody's holding them accountable too. So if you're here, let's have a conversation. So at Warande, for example, we have started thinking about how do we actually come together as a small group? How do we work with our government, our national governments, and we are piloting this in an area that traditionally has been seen to be difficult, like the civic space has not been as open, which is here in Ethiopia. So I'm very excited that Demis is here to come and share with us a little bit about how we're trying to support, especially the local resource mobilization environment, but working also within, within the government framework of Ethiopia. So Demis, thank you for being here. He's our country lead.
Let me present something about what we are as a Warandi Advisory Center working in Ethiopia, what we have been doing, what we have been lobbying for in Ethiopia. So the revenue, when we are talking about revenue diversification, there is some scenarios that there is, as we heard yesterday, universally aid world is declining in 23%. We heard yesterday. That's already is something that is happening in Ethiopia. At the same time, growing demand from the community population is increasing dramatically. So there is a large demand and need for resilience from the community. At the same time, CSO and local ownership is also the question. So why this is matter, in Ethiopia currently, there are 4,938 registered civil society. You can't operate in Ethiopia unless otherwise you are registered and the federal government gives you the license. So this is the registered, and currently as of last week, have a license from the Ethiopian government. Out of this number, 89% of them are local CSOs. That means almost all are local CSOs. But still, out of this 89%, 97% of them getting fund from abroad, from international aid. Still dependency is there. Still requirement dependency is there. Still the problem is there. With handful organization like Mary Joy and some few organizations. So there is a heavy external fund dependency in Ethiopia case, and need for resilience and locally rooted financial system is something that requires. So Warandi Advisory, we are working on these areas. So the central paradox is, locally there is a local CSOs, but there is no without local financial system. There is a local CSOs, 89% of local CSOs, but do not have a local fundraising system. And the question is, how do we build institutions that commit themselves and can sustain? This is what Warandi Advisory we are working on. So from this, you may see from the picture, we started. Here is my boss. We are started from, in Oromia, in Adama, started from traditional Abagada system, which is very influential in Oromia, and at the same time from the leading party, Prosperity Party, we start advocating from them, so that the local, the scenario, the overall changes must be come, we start from the ground. So advocacy with AXO. AXO means Authority for Civil Society Organization. As I've told you, unless otherwise this AXO allow you can't operate in Ethiopia. At the same time, year before, this AXO, limited every involvement, every initiation, everything, so that the civil society restricted themselves and keeping, the foreign aids. So we start promoting localization and domestic resource mobilization, regional learning exchange with AXO, Warandi work as a bridge so that the AXO, the Ethiopian government get lesson from Kenya, Tanzania, and at the same time Nigeria. So we are working on that. And what did Warandi do? From fragmented to coalition. That was our approach. That means ecosystem building, different coalition SHGs to come together so that they become FLA and CLA, they get license from the government so that the money directly given to these SHGs. At the same time, CSO networks using different intermediaries to come together and to create some collaboration so that for the secretariat and the fund given to them and to work together, and strong government and CSO collaboration. This is what we have been doing. Different time training is given for these local intermediaries and the government. And at the same time, you see, this is Mr. Fasika, is the AXO deputy director. We visited his office time and time again. with Chilande and advocated for them for localization, for local philanthropy, for policy change, for voluntarism, so on and so forth. So currently institutional breakthrough is happening in Ethiopia level. What is that? Localization is mainstreamed. Localization is mainstreamed and philanthropy is recognized. If you go to the AXO website, so they already incorporated in their website so that local fundraising may happening, government is arranging, preparing the ground for local philanthropy and social enterprise. In Ethiopia, social enterprise for CSO is unthinkable. It's a crime before 3 and 4 years. But now, the Ethiopian government is already buying this thing. Get a lesson. The ground is prepared for them to share experience from Kenya, from different countries, and social enterprise is coming soon in Ethiopia as a policy level, so that every CSO can make a business and get a profit and utilize that profit for social change. This is all the work of advocacy that we are doing time and time again. And thank you, Chilande. I should appreciate her because that Warande Advisory Center established in Nairobi now affecting the whole Africa. And one thing that I'm telling you, localization used to be, we don't work on the localization. I've been to this industry for the past 17 years, so localization is not known. Even if it is work, it is just in paper level. But now, even in AXO week, civil society weeks, the session is assigned so that all the civil society discuss on this session is facilitated by the AXO itself, so that different civil societies share learning from each other, from South Africa, from Nigeria, different civil society comes and discuss with localization. This is amazing shift that comes in Ethiopia level. And the other, so the AXO from controller, it become to enabler. This is the role of advocacy. I'm pretty sure a year of today or within a couple of years, things will be changed. The other thing, we arranged experience sharing from Ethiopian civil society to go to Nairobi and exchange learning about social enterprise, because social enterprise is coming on board soon in Ethiopia. That's why they are getting prepared. We are hosting them in Nairobi to exchange learning from different civil society. And my time is up. Let me show you the PowerPoint, and the PowerPoint is here. Have you seen this big lady? She's giving training for civil society. Yeah, she is giving different experience sharing and so on and so forth. She is a backbone behind all this change, and may God bless you. Thank you for reading.
I'm going to move on very swiftly. Thank you for that, Demisi. I think we thought that if we can do this in Ethiopia, where everybody thinks it's really closed and we can't cooperate with government and influence them at that level and also influence ourselves, honestly, if we can do it here, I think we can do it in many other places. So thank you for sharing, Demisi. Next, I will call on Buya. Buya also has a very interesting perspective on what her journey has looked like, so go for it.
Hi, everyone. My friends tell me, Booyah, you seem to be enjoying fundraising. I tell them, I love fundraising. Fundraising loves me. We have a healthy relationship, and we're doing very well. So my name is Booyah. I'm the Global Partnerships Manager for the Kilgoris Project. And today I just want to share some initiatives that we've done locally, which I hope you can learn from. And in the previous presentation, one of the questions that was asked was, do you receive support from the organizational level to be innovative and creative about your fundraising? And I said yes, because I think one of the things that has really helped me is that if I told my organization that tomorrow I want to sell this bottle of water to raise funding for the Kilgoris project, the question they will ask me is, what can we do to support you? And that has been very transformative in my fundraising journey. So, yeah. Thank you. Okay, yeah. So I want to build some context in terms of the organization. We're celebrating our 27 years of existence, so we've been in the game for a bit longer, which is a different context, and maybe organizations are on a different level. And so ours is a story of friendship, and it started with a conversation. Our co-founder met another co-founder at the Mara during a holiday, and one of the questions, he was a guest at the Mara, and when they met the Kenyan co-founder was a steward at one of the resorts, and when they met, they struck a friendship, and one of the questions that he asked him was, if there's one thing that should change in your community, what would that be? So for him, he said, you know what, I'm Maasai, I work at this resort, but there are very few Maasais working in formal jobs. For me, I was very lucky to gain meaningful employment because I got a scholarship, and if I can't provide access to education for my community members, then that would be great. And so this conversation, 27 years down the line, has moved from a single preschool to now we have 17 schools across 6 campuses within the Kilgoris region. And these are schools that we've built from ground up, meaning we have the land, and our model of partnership is very interesting. Each of our schools sits on 10 acres of land, which is land that we never bought. This is land that was donated by the community, so it means there's community buy-in. Community owns the land. And so we've built the school, we've set up the infrastructure, we employ teachers in partnership with the government. So there's an aspect of government and the organizational partnership, which is a very different context. And so as an organization, we also learned that there are many other factors that can prevent a child from accessing education. And so we have water, we have agriculture and livelihoods into our programming. What I love most about our agricultural program is that, again, Kilgoris is very fertile. So we grow our own food on a 46-acre farm that supplies 80% of the meals that our staff and our students consume, and then we sell the rest as surplus. So when I came on board, part of my role was to unlock, it's a buzzword, unlock in-country fundraising, and also just come up with innovative ways of raising income streams. And I became very innovative. And like I said, support was very critical. And so the first thing that I decided to do is host a golf tournament. At that point, I'm not very good in golfing, and I wasn't a golfer. But I thought golfing would bring good income, and so I said, how about we try golfing? And how did I settle on golf? I looked at our board, and I had conversation with our board members, and one of the things that I discovered is most of them were golfers, and I said, I'm going to ride on this to raise income for the organization. So I hosted the first tournament, and the income was very good. We raised about $50,000 in a day. As a fundraiser, I lied to myself. So I told myself, if I can raise this much in one day, maybe I should be doing this more often. So 3 months later, I hosted another golf tournament, and it was a proper flop. But there's so many lessons that I learned during the golf tournament was that, it was a different, what are they called? It was a different, so there's Muthaiga, there's Royal. What are those things called? It was a different club, and the context was different, but those are lessons that I learned very quickly. And so I told myself, if I'm not hosting the golf tournament at Muthaiga or Karen Club, I am not doing it. The second thing I did is what we call Twende Kilgoris, and some of the people here have participated, which was an invitation for the locals to just come on a 1-week-long trip to Kilgoris, and it's a trip that you pay for. So we've opened up our organization as a classroom for other organizations to learn from. So you come, learn from us, and the advantage is that we are based within the Mara region. So on the last day, we go to the Mara on a trip, so you go on a drive, and I think this is what has made it very attractive. So per trip, I generate between 3,000 to 5,000. That's per trip, per truck. And yeah, I host 4 trips annually, which has supplemented our income. And then finally, I hosted what we call the Girls Agenda. And Girls Agenda 2025 was a big convening in Nairobi in October 2025. And again, I looked internally at the organization and I said, 27 years down the line, we're not struggling with FGM. We have 0 FGM amongst the girls within our program and the community around where the schools are. So what learnings can we draw from our work? And how about I do a convening where other organizations can come and learn? So initially it was meant to be a platform for learning exchange, but it ended up being a fundraising event. And yeah, I generated good income, and I'm doing another conference this year, and I hope it's not a flop, like the golf tournament. Yeah, so through those 3 initiatives, there are multiple initiatives that I've done, but I've been able to generate multiple revenue streams to strengthen sustainability. But at the community level also, we've ensured that parents are able to contribute through subsidized fee, which are $30 a year in terms of school fees. And also during construction, because these are schools that we've constructed, we realize that parents can give, and they can give money, they can also give resources. Some have timber, some have sand, some have bricks, and some can actually give labor. What you need to do is ask. The Bible says, ask and it shall be given to ask. Yeah, and then because there are pastoralist community, so sometimes we do have animal auctions to mobilize resources during stakeholder engagement. And before I close, I would say that one of the things that also we did that really transformed fundraising within the organization is breaking down the report in a language that the community could understand, because we realized we do our reports, the annual reports, you type them and you send them on email, but none of our parents, or very few of our parents, own computers. They don't even have access to internet. So what did we do to get their buy-in? Every year in October, we have stakeholder engagement, and we're able to brief our parents and the community generally on what the organization is doing, what the organization needs for the next year, and what they can do to contribute to that. So I have a booth. Feel free to pass by, and thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Brian. I especially appreciate letting us know that sometimes we do fail, but we keep going anyway. And we have to normalize the idea of sometimes we do fail. And I appreciate the structures you're putting in place to also be accountable to your community. We don't always do that. So next we have Peter. Peter from Human Needs Project Kenya. What has it been like for you? Yes.
Kibran, Salam. Am I right? Thank you. If you kept quiet, are you in Addis Ababa? Or you are back home? That just means, ladies and gentlemen, greeting. Thank you. My name is right here, Peter Mudhaura. The title is very fancy, Director of Strategic Partnerships, but the reality is, Peter, where is the money? So that is what it more looks like. And so let me tell you a little bit about the Human Needs Project. This building that you see here is that is where we are housed. It's a green ecosystem that you see there. The whole roof is a solar power farm, about 22 kilowatts. There is an underground wastewater management system and a host of services between the roof and the underground. And I'll tell you a little bit about that in a few minutes. And the question is, what is the Human Needs Project? So we were founded as a non-profit organization to provide infrastructure for opportunity in urban informal settlements. And the way we started in 2012 and opened the doors officially in 2014 after some 2 years of community engagement, collaboration building, and actual construction. And we are actually in Kibera. Kibera in Nairobi is one of the biggest urban informal settlements in Africa. That's where we put up our concept center, our prototype center, which we have now proved and are ready to scale. How do we do it? It is by offering integrated services which are affordable, all under one roof, as opposed to disjointed, disconnected interventions here and there. And through that, we are able to introduce a concept known as time poverty, where people in urban informal settlements don't have to spend a lot of time looking for different interventions or the things that they need. You can imagine living in Kibera and you wake up in the morning and the first thing, unlike you guys, the first thing you have to think of is, where do I go to toilet? That will be probably followed by, where do I get a 20-liter can of water? that water is probably not consumable. Where do I get water to drink and stuff like that? So we are there to offer wash services, that is clean water, toilets, showers, laundry facilities and stuff like that. And also we are looking at the creatives, mostly the youth, and we have created opportunities for them in terms of filmmaking, music production, photography, digital photography, and all of those kinds of skills training, including paint and other forms of art. We also have a cafeteria in that building that you saw there, as well as several nice meeting rooms. Well, maybe not to this standard, but people can come there and have their meetings and seminars and training sessions. We have a mini water bottling plant. I'll talk a little bit about that later. And then skills training program that trains people in ICTs, in music, in photography, in video, and all of those skills, and entrepreneurship skills training as well, which we combine with a savings and credit cooperative organization. We all know that people in such settings do not rise up and go to the bank and present a logbook or a title deed and get a loan. It's not easy. But we have a loans program which they can save small amounts of money and access credit. We are also lighting up the urban informal settlement using solar street lights, and also putting up urban farming projects in urban informal schools, about 60 greenhouses so far that use hydroponics technology. We have also just started on a Justice Access Center, and I am happy that we are in partnerships. Of course, the Director of Strategic Partnerships, as you saw there, puts together players in similar sectors to create impact. I am happy one of our partners in this latest initiative is right here. You can wave Miriam from Justice Nest. And in addition to that, I just made a new partner here. Lulu, you can wave as well. Yeah, I'm here for partnerships. We will continue those conversations. All right. Let us have a few figures here. 400 million plus. What does that mean? These are liters of clean water distributed to the community of Kibera. Water that has been purified through nano filtration and is as safe as that bottle of water that you are consuming right there. We have 46 million being the Kenya shillings of loans that have been advanced to the community that forms the human needs circle in Kibera. 5 million is the number of transactions that we have logged so far. Every one of our services is sold, albeit at an affordable, marginally marked down price, and we have logged over 5 million of those. 60 tons is the amount of fresh produce that have been harvested so far from the urban informal settlement farms in greenhouses that use hydroponics. And 6,500 is the number of youth, mostly youth, that we have trained in the different programs I just mentioned earlier. And 60% of these students have been placed in employment, of course, in partnership with the partners that we work with. 500 is the pole-mounted solar streetlights that we have put up in Kibera and actually are continuously putting up in Kibera. Now, this is the most interesting part to share with you, that we have been able to achieve 40% cost recovery, and that is where we are. Through those small sales, we are able to cover 40% of our costs, of about we are not very big, so our expenditure, annual expenditure for the last 2 years is about that 3 million Kenya shillings, and from that we are able to recover about 11.5 million Kenya shillings through those sales. We made the community understand that we are not going to give you free things. You are going to have to pay to have your skin in the game, even though it's a small amount. But we don't want people coming here because they have nothing else to do. We want you to come here because you value what you are getting. But we are not stopping there. We are going ahead, and now we have built built a mini water bottling plant after realizing that our biggest resource is our borehole, which is several thousand feet deep. So we have built a mini water bottling plant and a brand of bottled water. That's what we are going to the market with, and we are looking for impact investors so that we can scale it from mini to major. If this conference was in Nairobi today, you would be drinking my water. Amen to that. So we also, from those solar street lights that we have put up, we want to mount advertising boards on them and charge organizations revenue to advertise, especially the fast-moving consumer goods. Kenya Power has come up with a system where if you are producing electricity from solar, and now we have 22 kilowatts, you can feed back into the grid, earn credits, and then you reduce your power bill. That's where we are going. So these things didn't happen immediately. We spent time building from the beginning, and we have all of our people are recruited and skilled up from that community, and we have rigorous systems to track transactions and financial information. There are some lessons here. It's not been easy. I will not lie to you that it's been easy to get to 40%. You can imagine selling things to people who are selling water or toilets or showers to people who earn less than $2 a day. It's not easy. But also, we have operational hazards, like what you will see here. My time is up, really. For me, I needed... but anyway, the point is home. So thank you very much, and look forward to working together.
Thank you very much for making big things seem possible for us. Thank you, Peter. And last but not least, of those that, of the various initiatives that we wanted to showcase is Durga Nandini. What has it been like for you?
Oh, it's a timer. I wish I could say to Chilande's question that it was amazing, it was rosy, and like Buya said, I love fundraising and fundraising loved me. But today, my story is not that. I loved fundraising, but fundraising did not love me back. That is my story. Yeah? So I'm here to talk about Nguvu Collective, an organization that I have co-founded with Preeti Herman. And that is when I need to go here, apparently. So this is us. It was a lovely moment when we co-founded the organization. We had big dreams, fantastic work that we were setting out to do. Vileke, you mentioned when we were preparing for this session, you should bring, that the speakers should bring our authentic selves. Yeah? And also share lessons that would be valuable for each one of us to take back. And so Preeti and I spoke about this. What is our authentic self? Is it about speaking about massive success stories, or is it about admitting failures and being vulnerable? So here I am, in all my vulnerability, to talk about a failure, a severe fundraising crisis, and how we are slowly, step by step, resurrecting ourselves. Thank you. Thank you. But before I move in, how many of you relate to this? How many of you in recent times have actually faced a severe fundraising crisis? Be honest, people. Yeah. See that? See that? See that? Relate to it. Still facing there, yeah? How many of you have somehow figured out ways to bring yourself back up and move towards like resurrection, rebirth, slowly, steadily, maybe partially? I see a few hands here, a few hands partially here, maybe partially, maybe partially. So this is a partial story of resurrection, so know that we're all on the same level. And this is also the first time I'm telling this story, so please bear with me as we go. Okay, so what was our story? We started off big with Nguvu Collective, but then there was this dependence, one funder, international funder. Very supportive, completely believed in our growth story, was mission aligned, we were supporting women leaders, emerging women leaders, and we were building a collective of them to advocate for themselves and change their own community realities. That's what we were doing across many countries in Asia, Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa, India, Indonesia, so many countries. Yeah? But what we didn't realize, I mean, maybe we did not, I can't say we didn't realize, we knew that we were being unidirectional, we were being single-minded, and that was a risk which came with a single funder in the picture. Right? We knew the risk was there, it was real, but then there were always urgent programmatic priorities that we had to focus on. A report had to be sent, a project had to be implemented, and so on and so forth. How many of you relate to this? You cannot get to thinking about it, even thinking, leave alone diversifying, thinking about diversifying your funding, right? So that's exactly where we were. I named the problem. You see the women that we have trained here. But one of the things that we did very well, and you spoke to this, Chilande, is we built our social capital. We constantly spoke about the work that we did, the work that our women leaders did, the previous slide that you saw them. We chose the right platforms to tell our stories. So what you see there, Preeti Herman, she was the first inaugural Obama fellow that was chosen from all of Asia, right? That's me constantly appearing on television, radio, social media, building our social capital, talking about our work, leaving record of our impact throughout. So that consistency, hold on to that thought because we're going to revisit that. And then came the setback. We thought we were having a brilliant run, but then the unexpected happened. The unexpected is the funder was exiting and the plug was pulled. So naturally, so many heads nodding out there, naturally, we were in a crisis. So we asked ourselves, are we going into panic mode? Are we making tough decisions? Yes to tough decisions, no to panic mode. We did not, because we knew that we had to take ourselves back up. We had to pick ourselves back up. So what we essentially did is we looked at the opportunity in the crisis. We looked at what are our core strengths. And the questions we asked ourselves were, what are we exceptionally good at Inguva Collective? What is our unique value proposition? What is the market looking like? What do civil society organizations, movements, funders, what do they need? What is the emerging need that we're seeing? And what is the intersection that we meet that need? And so when we went back to the drawing board, our strengths became very clear. Not that we didn't know them, but we mapped them out. And that is when the road forward became very clear. At the core, we were storytellers. We were campaigners. We knew what it meant to take awareness to people and convert it into movements and huge mobilization to be possible. So we looked at this and we mapped out our strengths. And when we went to the drawing board, the diversification journey became clear. Because as we were mapping our strengths, we were also deeply listening to what we were hearing from the sector. We were hearing, and this actually speaks to what the announcement that you just made in terms of 3 organizations coming together to share resources. We realized that's exactly what was required. And so at Inguva Collective, we said, campaigning, advocacy, strategic communications, all 3 of them are actually huge verticals within big organizations. And we are sitting with that expertise of 10 years, right? And so we said, we are taking this to the civil society world. We're taking this to funders, we're taking this to civil society organizations, to movements, and we are saying, we will be your extended team. If you are not able to invest in your strategic communications team, we are here for you. If you're not able to invest in your campaigning team, we are here for you. And the result is this. What you're seeing on your screen right now, currently, and this is built over the past 1 year, slowly, step by step, which is the Nigeria Youth Futures Fund. In Nigeria, we're working with 10 grassroots leaders, helping them win advocacy impact. With Luminate, we're actually working on big tech accountability, helping their partners run campaigns across Africa. With Colmina and Better Politics, we're actually working on women's political representation. How can it be more inclusive and representative? So, diversification is indeed possible. It's just that we really need to be absolutely clear what our strengths are and what our unique value proposition is. So, what were the learnings? USP, that's exactly what it was for us. What are the evolving needs that you are seeing, and are you speaking to those needs? That is one major point that we had not addressed. And when we addressed that, it became very clear. Telling your story, the social capital. Are you telling your story only when you need support, or are you telling your story long before that? Is that a sustained process, just like fundraising is? And it's about building resilience. You might have to take tough decisions, but through all of that, are you being resilient? And finally, this is a framework that we have built for ourselves, and I want to share it with each one of you. Probably you'll find this useful. We were brave through a crisis moment, and so we call it the BRAVE framework. A breakthrough, accepting where we are at and asking, is this still working? Relationships. Each one of us speaks about building relationships, but are we building what you said is the ecosystem of relationships? Are we building an infrastructure around those relationships that is disciplined? That is what is important, because suddenly when money comes into the bank, we forget that relationships exist. We forget that that is the one that actually brought us the money, right? So what is the discipline that we follow? Adapting, but not forgetting who you are. There is an emerging need, and are you still staying true to your mission and your vision? And then visibility. This really, really has worked for us, being meaningfully visible to the right audiences in the right platforms. And finally, expanding. Expanding not just wherever fundraising is taking you, but going there with a strategy and thoughtfully. So the BRAVE framework is something that we are falling back on at Nguvu Collective. I hope so many hands that went up when I asked the first question do not have to go up over again, because I think each of the speakers here came forth with genuine ideas, so many tips and tricks of how diversification is happening real time. So my story of failure from Nguvu Collective is not looking absolutely difficult. It is not. It's looking up. Yeah, funding landscapes are going to shift, but as they shift, what will funders invest in? Are they investing in people that they don't know, they have not heard or seen, whose values they don't know, or are they investing in people who they understand and relate with? So that is a question that we have asked ourselves, and because of that, there is clarity, confidence, and resilience that we are carrying on the Nguvu Collective journey. Thank you so much. I hope this was useful.
Okay. Thank you so much, Durga, for sharing with such soul and such generosity and such authenticity. That's how we learn, that's how we grow. Really putting a huge plus on strategic partnerships and where that can take us. Let us stop the idea of being siloed. We go further when we go with more than one person. Now, Wilike, I'm having way too much fun. So can I please pass this on to you so you can have some fun too? Take us to the next session. Thank you. Thank you to all our speakers.
Thanks very much, everyone. What we tried to do with the four speakers, and actually all of the four, we knew that they would be present here. So we asked actually the organizers, let us know who are present and who are willing to share their story. So it's not necessarily looking for those answers, but almost sharing the answers that are out there and the solutions that are out there. We have some time for you to have a conversation amongst each other. Is that okay? We want to be interactive instead of just listening ear. All of you in this room have something to share. You know, all of you have gone through either difficult situations as Durga outlined, or are in the process of creating new solutions, or are a completely energized, driven person as Buya is, who's willing up to learn how to, what is again, golf, how to play golf, to even interact with potential high net worth individuals. So if okay with you, we're going to ask you to form small groups. And there are two questions that we want to raise amongst those group. It's a little bit the so what, now what question. You've listened to all of this. What is it what you want to share? You know, around the work that you are doing individually, the work that you are doing as an organization, or maybe the work that you think that we should be doing as a sector together, and you might have examples there. But also, please, could you highlight something around the now what? What are you committing to? So if you're walking out of this room, what is your commitment? Is it saying, that was really nice, now off we go to our desk again and we just pretend that it didn't happen? Or do you really want to commit to something? And I have to say, this is really a big question from Evans in a way as well, by saying, we have this conference here, but then, so what? You know, it's very nice that you've all been listening. What are we going to do next and what do we commit to? I'm going to share you an awful slide with about 12 Google Docs QR codes on it. The question is, can you form small groups with each other, but also can you commit to it to maybe report somebody in your group around those commitments back? They do not have to be beautiful. We're not looking at big answers or big solutions. Really what comes up? What are the first things that come up that you say, yeah, this came out of the conversation and this is what we are committing to? Is that okay? Can we commit, maybe have groups of 5-6 people each? Is that okay? And people, you have to get off your chair, you have to maybe move chairs. Maybe we should get some music on, I don't know, but 6, 7?
Yeah,
6?
about 6.
About 6. 6, 7. 7 is also okay. Can you form some groups and maybe sit together? And then this is the most chaotic part of the session, and I love a bit of chaos because it creates new solutions.
I wonder.
Got your attention, what was discussed? What is the thing, either the commitment or the example that was shared? And it is literally a 30-second reflection back. Don't explain what all has been discussed. That's not what it's about. That is recorded. And we, by the way, we will share all these Google Docs with you as well, so that you will have all of them. May I ask, maybe group number 8 to start? Is that okay? The one thing that came out of your discussion that you thought, wow, that's amazing. We need to share that with the group. One. The most important thing.
Okay. Yeah, I can do it. I can try. So there were many things. One thing was we should be pushing for unrestricted funding, more unrestricted funding. The other one is reduced donor dependency. Diversify. We've seen diversification and what it can do. And so look at different ways of doing things that we haven't been doing in the past, and maybe have more focus into other models. We're learning a lot of more financing models, build our own capacity in terms of understanding these models and then how we use those models into the work, input into our organizations, but also as individuals. Build our own capacity so that we're able to then utilize the knowledge that we've gained into making sure that we're able to raise more funds.
Thanks very much. Raphael, can I ask what Terra de Son is doing as an example?
Okay, thank you. So my name is Raphael. I work for Terra de Son's Netherlands, and I just shared with the group very briefly that our organization is currently doing a complete changeover, changing our operating model to completely close all the country offices across the globe and work directly with partner organizations at two levels. One are strategic partner organizations, national organizations with capacity to grant, sub-grant others, support monitoring and training, and make sure work is going to continue. And that is a very big change. Thank you.
Thanks, Raphael. Just to talk about what comes out of the conversations here. This group, what are we going to share? Yeah.
There's so much. All right. I guess for this group is to just listen and learn from the sector, from each other, because everyone has expressed a lot of the things that they're doing, the failures, the successes. So to be able to emulate what people are doing and use it in our own organizations, individually, and also collectively as a sector.
Thank you. I'm going behind the camera, sorry. This group, do you have one crucial thing? Hey, how are you?
Good evening. So in our group, there were very interesting conversations, but there's one that, actually two, that stood out that we feel we need to share. And number one is donor dependency, depending on one donor. But there was also a debate about what if this donor has been supporting long-term project for impact. Getting another donor that can support impact is a bit challenging. And so the solution was basically reaching out to the partnerships or the donors that is existing to refer you to another donor as they exit, and taking also the advantage of the learning forums, the conferences that Buya mentioned, ensuring that revenue comes out of that. There's another interesting discussion that came about sector and collective commitment. For example, we are here for this conference, and the question was, the learnings that we have here, how do we ensure that we implement them back in our own organizations? And we also ask, how is EPN monitoring this? Is there a way that we give feedback in every year? We sit down with different stakeholders and just give feedback. I learned this at this conference, and this is what I implemented, and these are the challenges. So we were asking, is it possible for us to have different chapters in every maybe country, and also coordinate with EAPN to just have a tool for us to fill in how we implemented all the learnings here, and also give feedback in the next year's conference. Thank you.
Thanks very much for that, and I will definitely pinpoint Evans towards you to make that happen. Any commitment, any crucial thing that this group wants to share with the rest?
Thank you so much. My name is Chris Kimani from Nairobi, Kenya, working at the Center for Domestic Training and Development. And for Group 5, some of the things that actually stood out, one is that failure is not an isolated case. We do write lots and lots of proposals. There's that email that you usually don't like receiving, which starts in a very polite manner but with a very sad ending. So failure is not isolated. Yes, what we need to do is just to keep on looking for other sources to diversify our revenue streams, and also to be resilient and not give up. Also, the issue about the community being resources rather than just beneficiaries also came out strongly for us, because each and every community, they do have something to give, and they can also contribute as resources towards the efforts that we have in the community as well. Then the issue also of using data for storytelling, and just using storytelling as well as one of the tools for fundraising was also very, very key. And in terms of our commitments, one as a sector is that we need to not work in silos, we need to work collaboratively together, and we also need to re-envision what program delivery looks like from an individual point of view, because every organization is different and we all have our unique experiences as well. Then also one other commitment is leaders. Yes, leaders also of these organizations here who are here with us have also committed to support their staff and colleagues in their unique resource mobilization efforts as well, coming in as a learning from one of the presenters that was here today. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And what you're saying about creating that collective, I hope you're also going to initiate it, because it's action time and not talking time anymore. What is the key takeaway from this group that you want to share?
I think everybody has said some of the things that we touched on. However, we discovered that every country has its own different legalities. So yes, we all want to diversify, but like in Kenya, you might be considered to be making a profit when you're a non-profit organization. So our takeaway was to test the regulations and get to see where the balance between profit and generating revenue is, so that your organization is sustainable, like you're not now moving forward because of a legality. And we suggested you could opt to register a for-profit arm of your organization. So you continue running as an NGO, but have a separate arm. And we also talked about endowment funds and how you can utilize your reserves to ensure the organization is still running, even though you don't have like constant inflow of funding.
Thank you. And nice talking about the reserves. If you have reserves, how do you utilize them? Can I go to this group?
So thank you. So I'll try to make it as brief as possible. The first thing is what is the takeaway message and the takeaway commitment. The takeaway message is that it is possible. It is possible to transition. It is possible to diversify, and it is possible to adapt. It is possible to adapt. And 1 + 1 = 3. Every individual has their own roles, and if we come together as a team, teamwork will provide us more result. And what is our individual commitment is self-reflection. We have to look into ourselves and anchor the information that it is possible to do it, and look for diverse opportunities and diverse people in funding, and implementing the social enterprise might have challenges, but we can go through it. And as an organization, there were a lot of reflections, but overall the major word that stood out was hard work, commitment, and diversification. So we have to diversify our funding. So we have to commit in implementing and making this theme into our teams and progressing. So the other is, as a system, new systems always have challenges. They always come with challenge. So commitment is needed, including starting from top to bottom, from the donors to the grassroots and the actors. So we should all commit, and that's all. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And the drive there to have energy and never give up is a beautiful one, especially for fundraisers. Last but not least.
Okay, thank you so much. This is group 3, and I'll be brief. One, on what we have learned and what we are going with is that it's good to learn from our experiences. When you fall, don't remain down. You can still stand up and continue, but learn from experience so that you can get to another level. And then our commitments, one, we have all agreed that we need our teams back in our organizations, their capacity to be strengthened, because you cannot do it alone. So everyone has committed to go back and share what we are getting from this conference, and then check ourselves as organizations, but also as individuals. What have we been doing and what have we not been doing, and then how can we do better to embrace diversification of our revenue. But also the most important thing, when we have agreed that if we want to embrace diversification, then we need to integrate this in our organizational documents, like the strategic plan, because you will not just wake up and say that we are doing financial diversification when it is not presented anywhere in the organizational documents. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thanks for outlining the importance of fundraising is not a standalone unit, but should be part of the bigger part. I heard a couple of, am I meant, sorry, apologies. I missed you.
Well, it was, I think, tactical so that everyone will say everything else that we have. But one thing that this group 7 that came up with that I've not heard is that we need to be agile. We need to be able to adapt quickly and think outside the box in the changing times that are affecting all of us. And as a take home, we cannot give what we don't have. So we need to prepare ourselves individually and as organizations so that when we are trained and we are equipped with the skills that are needed, we can be able to share with others. Thank you.
And what a beautiful final remarks that was of the group that I almost forgot. Apologies. Before I hand over to Chilande, what we have done here is really peer learning. You see how much expertise there is in this group alone. And a lot of people are saying sometimes we are not aware what is out there, and conferences are sometimes an ideal, what we sometimes call sensing moment, you know, really have an idea what is out there. That doesn't mean that you're automatically an expert in that area. That almost goes to a next level where you say, hey, we want to know more about these areas, understand them better, and explore if that's really something for us as an organization. And there are a lot of opportunities how you can learn in a kind of a deeper dive around it as well. And of course, with a very fast changing world, there are a lot of questions out there where we don't have answers yet. But we can find them together. You know, if we bring people together and say, show us the answers that are out there, we can definitely make that happen. And I really want to say here to you, so based on the peer learning that has happened, we have created a virtual Pan-African fundraising conference together with EAPN, with WACSI, West African Civil Society Institute, and with CIF Fund, and with anyone else who's interested there, by really saying, let's make it available, let's share those best practices that are out there, and also let's form a community, because we all know that fundraising is unbelievably tough at the moment. It is often a lonely role to play, even while the organization is supporting you. It's not always the easiest one. So where you can be part on that virtual day by a broader community, knowing that you're not alone, knowing that you sometimes should fail to make the right changes and decisions, but also to learn from and with each other. And that's the power of a social impact sector. That's the power of fundraisers who are very willing to do that. I'm handing over to Chilanda for some nice final words, because I have to switch some slides.
Just to say, really emphasize on the idea of peer learning. And folks, from my perspective, I don't think things are changing necessarily. I think they're just evolving. We were reflecting quite a bit at our organization and saying, 20 years ago, we were really clamoring and making noise and saying local actors are here. We are here, we are amazing, we are doing good work. Those of you who've been around for that long. 20 years ago, that was the rhetoric. As people started recognizing who we are, we got into a period where, as they are working more with local actors, the power dynamics started emerging. Do you remember that? And we started saying, guys, the way you're relating with us is not okay. Right? 10 years ago, we were fighting and saying, folks, we need to start thinking about power shifts and how do we shift that and how can we work a little bit better. Fast forward, as that happened, the localization agenda came across. Right? Around that time, we started thinking, okay, fine, let's localize. And what did that come with? Pledges for change, commitments to localization, guidelines, modules, what else is there? All those things. Commitments have been done. Today is 2026, we're still looking at data, and it's still saying very little money, 2% and less is still coming to us as local organizations. So really, it's time for us to really think and evolve with the times. Sometimes words are powerful. Whenever we say, oh, things are changing, it means you're destabilized. Right? It means that you're struggling. But I think spaces like this, people who come to places like this, you've all invested time and energy and money for some of you to be here. Let's not take this for granted. Let's really latch onto each other and see how we can support one another through these times, as times are changing, so that we can also get there to the other side, because we're not doing this for ourselves, we're doing it for our communities, and that's what should always anchor us and keep us going. So thank you very much. You've been a lovely group of folks. I've learned so much, and we can keep on, reach out to anybody. Some of these communities are important. Some of the work you've had being shared here is always there. At Waranda, we are also always there. We've got various communities of practice that bring together founders struggling with the same thing, both and also thematic areas. So just reach out, find more information on all our websites, and join whatever community works for you. So given the energies that have been there, first let's please give a round of applause to those who shared. Thank you so much to everybody. Your stories will remain with us forever. Thank you for sharing so generously.